How's it going, guys? Thanks for joining. Who's here with us today? We've got two people. Do you want to comment? Thanks for joining. So who have we got watching? What you doing today? What you vaping on? How's your day been? So still vaping on the Bonza. Looks a bit different. It isn't the silver one. It was the black splattered one, but I put it to soak and half the paint fell off, so I took the rest of the paint off. So I'm just going to wait a couple of minutes just to see if anybody else jumps back in, and then we'll get started. Like I say, whoever's watching, do you want to comment? What have you guys been doing today? Has it been warm where you are? So the current person that's just watching, if you're the one that always joins the stream but doesn't say much, thank you. Won't wait too long, just a couple of more minutes, see if anybody jumps in or jumps out. Just keep an eye on my chat just in case anything comes up, because it comes up on my computer first. So I've got the window open, so if you hear any background noise, cars, kids, stuff playing, people are out and about, it's sort of warm, but where I am in the house, I'm on the opposite side of the sun, that's why I'm wearing a hoodie. Punk Rock, thanks for joining, mate. How are we doing today? Yeah, appreciate it. I'm sure that the new hog looks good. I'm due a new hog, I think. I've got the V1, but that 200 looks nice. Size form, I bet it's nice in the hand rather than a big massive square thing. So anyway, I'll get started. So next week there won't be a live stream because I've got a big busy week next week. I've got a wedding to go to, grandkids. We're going to have them a bit longer than we normally do. So next week there will not be a live stream. But today we'll see how it goes. Might run long, might build two things. I'm going to be doing an RDA from 10 years ago. So if you're a young vapor, you probably won't know what it is, but if you jump in or you're watching on the replay, you might know this RDA. But like I say, it's 10-year-old RDA. The coil build that I'm going to be doing today is not going to be anything special. It's just going to be a fused Clapton. I don't want to push the limits of the insulator, which we'll get to on the close-ups. But let's crack open a beer. I do have two, but the other one's in the fridge. But I really like this one. This one's a chocolate cake stout, one of my favourites from Northern Monk. I'm too picky with my drinks, so I tend to stick to what I know. So we'll crack this open and get it poured. Got nice cold glass as well. Let's go in for the pour. That's nice. This one actually tastes like chocolate cake. It's got really depth in flavour. So cheers to everybody who's watching, jumping in. Cheers to the replay crew, and happy birthday, Mum. And like I say, this actually tastes of cake. So I'm going to pair it with this. This is the Bonza. It was my black splatter one, but half the paint came off on clean, so I just took the rest off. So juice I'm vaping on is the one that I can't tell you about, but is a dessert juice. So I'm just going to refer it to the G14 classified juice, but it is a dessert juice, and I think it'll go well with this. So let's do a quick pairing. Boy, that makes that very creamy. Do I keep saying the Bonza? It's the Blotto. Sorry. Kept doing that last week. Blotto. This is a really strong beer as well. It is a whopping 8.4%. Right. So as always, I'm working with one camera, so I will be moving the camera about and adjusting. I'm trying to do it so you get the most better view when I'm doing the coils as well. So I'm going to move and let's get started. So bring you over here. Bring you down a bit. Just going to adjust the camera just a bit. There we are. So we're going to go there, and then I'm just going to readjust the chair. So let me just put this down so we can see what we're doing here. So the RDA that I'm going to be vaping or building on as well today is the Plume Veil. So punk rock, you might not know this one because this is a good 10-11 years. This isn't my original one that I had. This is also a clone made by Aethertech. So guess what this was? Thanks people that have just joined in. Anybody guess how much this was? Or the authentic was back in the day? So you got an OG Plume Veil, have you? What do you think to it? So you've got airflow at the top, which is controlled by this black Delrin piece. So your top cap, let me get something to pull it off. It's really warm. I might do one on there. I need to get an RTA system. A friend's got that. That's the Triforce Trifecta tank. So let me get this off so you can see. So there's your barrel. You've got direct airflow there, which goes straight to your coils, and then these side airflow pins come through the negative post. So have you tried it with a more modern coil? So it can be done in single and dual, coil configuration, and then your top airflow piece winds down. So it increases the airflow that comes through these two pins at the top. I never really use that. Oh, it's not bad. Oh, right. And there we are. And then the deck. So 10 years ago, how much did you pay for your OG punk rock? Don't mind me asking. So that's the deck. And as you can see, that insulator now, that is a tough plastic, but it's not a very strong plastic. So I'm just going to pull this off. So that's the deck right there. It's not too deep. And then that's for your side airflow pin that comes through your negative. That's not bad. This isn't an OG punk rock. This is a clone. This one, unfortunately, my OG that I had, I ended up messing up the insulator because, as you can see on the inside, it just looks like a plastic insulator, which is basically what it was. But brand new, I think these were about 140 quid just for this RDA. So you've got your two negative that are milled in. And then this, I don't think this was the first one, but I think it was one of the first ones that came with a T-post with two post screws. And basically that's the bottom. That's a fake serial number because this isn't authentic. I got this cheap. I think I got this for about the same price as you, punk rock. But that's that. But see how it goes. I have got another one. But see how it goes. So basically that's the RDA. So because of that insulator, I can't do no crazy right low builds on it, like a Fuse Clapton or an Alien, because that will just melt. So I don't want to push it. And believe it or not, you could undo your 510 pin, rotate the center post to the opposite direction and actually put 4 coils on it. Not that many people did that. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to be doing some standard fused Claptons on these. I'm going to use 28 gauge Kenthal and 36 gauge NI80 to make it. So I'm going to get set up with my building stuff as always. So I'm going to put that on there. I've got my little table. Here I will adjust the camera so you can see me. And hopefully you can see me good there. So I need my drill. You can use a cordless drill. I just use this because it's convenient. My core holder that holds my wires straight from the handy coil factory. And I'm going to use that. I'm just going to pop that in there. I use this nutcracker just to nip it up. So I will need some pliers. Not pliers, cutters, and then some pliers there, pliers there. So that's ready. So I clamp this down onto my bench, which I use one of these, which I got from Toolstation or Screwfix. I think it was Screwfix I got it from. And I use that just to clamp it in, just so that doesn't move and it stays sturdy. I've got my, obviously my swivel here in a vise with some swivels. I also had these in my Daedalus Pro kit. These are ball bearing swivels. If you're ever using swivels, use the ball bearing ones. They're a lot better. So I didn't take these off again from last week. There we are. So the ball bearing swivels, they spin nice and freely. I've got two of them on there, attached to a piece of wood and a hook, obviously in this vise here. So like I say, I'm going to be using some 28 gauge as my cord. So it's just a normal fuse Clapton. So I'm using 28 gauge Kenthal for this, and then some NI80 36 gauge to wrap it with as well. So if I have enough wire, I might build 2 RDAs and we'll go from there, but we'll see how it goes. So I always use extra because I like plenty to play with. So I'm gonna be probably pulling out about, say, 35 millimeters. So I'm holding it at one end and just giving it a little pulse until it gives. So I'm going to do, just so I've got enough to play with, I'm going to cut off 35 millimeters for both my cores. So again, I'm going to grab the end. You will see me get my binoculars out soon if you're wondering where my binoculars are. Again, with the second one, it is a soft wire 28 gauge, so you can just pull it. If you're using thicker gauge wire, then by all means use your drill to straighten it out. So I'm going to do exactly the same here. I'm going to cut about 35 millimeters, 350 millimeters, 35 centimeters. And if you're American, then it's just, I think, just over 12 inches if you're American. So I need that key there just to undo my core clamp. So I'm going to get my 2 wires like so. So they're more or less even. I'm going to go with the opposite side because I've got a bit of a nasty side there. And then this little bit here that I've got extra, I'm just going to put a little L in, just so it sticks out of here. I'm going to need my binoculars. I use these because I'm blind, and it just helps me see my wire a bit better. So I'm using 28 gauge, just normal Kenthal, bit more of a bend in that. So I need to make sure that they're parallel, and then I'm going to pop them into my chuck just here. Make sure they're side by side. There is a little divot in there that'll rest it, but I just want it just in between that divot, so both wires are more or less center. Which is about there, I'd say. So I'm going to lock that off. So as you can see, I've got a little thing sticking out there. So I want to make sure that these are parallel and next to each other, which they are, just to give me a little bit of extra help. I will be using my core guide. This was also from a RDA.s as well, and I just use them because they just helps keep the wires straight while it's going along. So I'm going to pull from here again, make sure that they're next to each other. I'm going to put my core guide on here. Just going to slip that through. That's just going to help keep everything nice and straight. Pull tight. I'm going to bring my swivel over. I'm not going to lock it in completely. Thanks to everybody that is joining. So I'm going to, same again, put an L in here just to make it easier to mount to my swivel. So I've got an L just in there. There we are. An L just in there. I'm going to feed it through my swivel. I'm going to pull some tension on here because this is clamped down. And then I'm just going to take the wire and fold it over a couple of times. And out the way like that. So now I'm going to tot up everything. Thanks for the ones that have joined, appreciate it. So I'm pulling it taut. I've got a bit of resistance in there. That core guide moves. So if you just joined, I'm just doing a simple coil today because I'm building the plume veil. I don't know if you're alright, Lee Much. How we doing, mate? Thanks for joining. Just doing some normal 28 gauge fused Claptons. I'm building the plume veil from about 10-11 years ago. So I'm just doing a simple build because I don't want to stress the insulators out. So I've just mounted my two 28 gauge, bit of resistance there, not too much, not too less. That's locked in, and that moves freely. Now this is better if you've got 3-core wires, but I just find it helps even with 2-core wires there. So I am wearing my binoculars. Cheers everybody, cheers Lee, I hope you got something nice to drink. So let's wrap it with some 36 gauge. So I'm using 36 gauge NI80 to wrap it with. So what I'm going to do is with this tail I'm just going to wrap it round and then I'll get you a bit closer so you can see what I am doing. So I'm just going to take that and wrap it around that leg there that's sticking out. So like I say, this is just a simple build, but it's a build nevertheless. So that's that. I've got that locked in, that locked in. Let's get you a bit closer. So I'm going to get you about there. Excuse me. I'm going to get you about there and then I'm just going to lock in. Where's my mouse? So I'm just going to lay that down for a second. There we are. So hopefully that'll stay where it is. So there we are. So I've got it locked up on that little tail there. I'm going to pull my guide just across. Hopefully that'll move as I go along. Make sure your drill's in the right direction. I like to wrap over the top, so that's what I'm going to be doing. So I'm just going to lock in just a few wraps. So there we are, like that. So I've got that locked in, I've got a few wraps going. I'm just going to pull my guide over there, hold a bit of tension and wrap. So hopefully the mic is deadening the sound of the drill. So I'm holding it with enough tension, not too much tension, just letting it wrap, do its thing, 90-degree angle. And just basically let it do its thing. But make sure you're using enough tension that it doesn't back up on itself. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to stop there. And I'm just going to adjust that like that. So you can see what I'm doing. Then I'm just going to start up again and get going. So as I go along here, just keeping a nice enough tension, letting the guide do its thing, move and keep everything straight for me. So you can get guides. This was just in the Daedalus Pro that I had, so I'm using them, but there is places online where you can get core holders. If you haven't got the money, alternatively you can use a paper clip, a hair clip, you know, things that are around the house. Key rings, you can use them and then just move them along as you need them. So I'm going to go to all the way to the end of this wire. If I've got enough wire, I will do two RDAs today with me not having a live next week. So if you're here, you know, for the replay crew, I've got a busy week. I've got a wedding and we've got the grandkids a few extra days next week. So next week there will not be a live stream, but there will be another one a week after that on the 28th. So I'm getting to the end of my wire. Everything seems to be laying as it should have been. So I'm going to go as far as I can. but I want to leave myself a bit of thingy just so I can snip it off. So I'm going to lock it off, and basically that's just simple fuse Clapton. I'm going to snap that off. Let's see. Can I get this to focus? And it doesn't want to play ball. There we are. Is that a bit better? There we are. So that is the wire. I will show you a better view of it just there. Let's have a look at the chat. Just having a look at the chat, guys. Good to see you all having a chat. So I'm going to move that away. So basically that's it, guys. That's just a simple fuse Clapton. I am going to just pop that off there, and I think it is stayed straight more or less all the way as well. So I don't have any twists and turns. This core holder is absolutely brilliant. So just going to move this out of the way. Move that out of the way. And just move this so I've got a bit more room. So if I take the autofocus off, or locked in focus, and there we are. That's just a simple 28 gauge fuse Clapton dual core there. So I'm just going to see how much wire I actually have, or how much wire I got out of it. And I got more or less where I wanted. I wanted about a 30cm piece. So where are we? So I've got about 31 or just under 31. So I'm going to chop it in the center at 15.5 roughly. So there we are, 2 pieces of that. So Lee, if you're still in the still watching, you had a good day? So what I'm going to do is drop in everything. So I'm just using my Coil Master and my jig. This one with the deck size, because it is a 22mm RDA. So I will be doing a 2.5mm ID. I'm going to start off with about 5 wraps and go from there. So I'm going to get one of my pieces just here. Let me readjust this camera a bit. So I'm going to go like that. I'm going to bend you down a bit. Like so. So the wire stayed straight enough for me, so it'll be easy for me to wrap. So got my coiling jig just there. So coiling jig just there. So I'm going to lay my wire flat. Flat against my coiling rod like that. I know I've seen your missus post the food you were having today. It looked absolutely amazing what you were eating, mate. So just gonna very carefully, like I say, there's no twists in the wire, so everything should lay nice and flat. So I'm going to do 5 wraps to begin with, and then I normally wrap from the other end. If I can get another wrap out of it, I will do. But that's my first 5 wraps. So I'll flip it over. Like I say, everything stayed nice and flat, so it's easy to wrap. So I'm going to do another 5 wraps only from this end and see if I can get an extra wrap. So 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. Now I think I'll easily get out of camera. I'll easily get another wrap, I think. So I'm going to put another wrap to make it 6 wraps. Make it 6 wraps. I'm sorry I'm out of camera. So 6 wraps, and then I'm going to put another wrap on this side. Like that. So I'm just going to check the RDA as well. Oasis Cook, thanks for joining, mate. Today I am building the plume veil. So I'm going back to about 10 years ago. So I'm building the plume veil. I've just made some fused Claptons with 28 gauge core, mate, and 36 on the outside. So that's not too bad. I think I might get another wrap. If I put half a wrap on that side and another wrap like that on that side. So I've now got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 6, 7. So I've got 7 wraps now. I'm going to do the same with that, with this leg. This leg, I'm going to fold about half a wrap on, and then I'm going to do the rest on this side to make it even. So I've got 2 coils there that I've dropped. Butterfingers. Right. Where have they gone? Oh, there they are. So, there they are. So, if I just I just do that. So there we are, just some simple fused Clapton 7 wraps on both sides there. Just simple. Like I say, I don't want to push the insulator on this RDA. And then I'm just going to cut them about halfway, like that. Separate them. So I'm just going to pop you down a bit more. Yeah, it's easier to do, Lee, and plus if you just chop a wire in half and you just need that slight extra, it's always good to just have one piece. So I've got another piece there, so seeing how it goes, I might do another old school RDA as well. So I'll just pop that there. So got my coils. I am going to undo my post holes. See what happens if I go a bit closer. Does that make it better? Yes, it does. Get the focus more or less right. So I'm just going to undo these post holes. So I think the post holes on these were about, I think they're about 2.5 mils. Yeah, I'd say about 2.5 mils in diameter. So you can't fit really big coils. I mean, you can fit a normal 24 gauge fused Clapton, but like I say, because of the insulator there, that is hard plastic, not PEEK. I don't want to push it so it melts. If you put a right low build on, like a 0.1 build, you're just going to melt that insulator after 4 or 5 uses. So I'm going to use the rod off my coiling jig to mount them. So one of the things from these RDAs, now if I'm doing this coil, it's perfect. Now back in the day, which I don't want to forget and I do want to mention, most people used round wire when this came out. So these post holes that the screws go down with are hollow. So it doesn't hit like a flat surface at the bottom of that screw. So if you're doing round wire and you tightened your post screws, it's the beer, post screws too tight, you could snap your wire and then end up having to rebuild it. But because I'm using like a fused Clapton, we should be good. That should not happen. So I'm just going to put one leg in there, one leg in there. So with the wire also being pliable as well, I'm just going to more or less just shove it straight up to the posts. So I'm going to secure that down until it stops. Now with these old RDAs as well, because of the screws, they're not like grub screws you get today with right thick thread. They're right thin threading on them. So they used to obviously back out. So as you can see there, so I'm just going to pull, slam it to the middle as best as I can, like that, slam it, and then I'm going to pull, and then I'm going to lift slightly, making sure there's no wonk. So about there, like that. So once you've done that, check your post holes. I know it's normal practice, but back then you had to check your post holes because when you were manipulating the coil, you could just pull those screws loose again. So that's one mounted. Let's go for number two. And with the legs being slightly short, I should be able to just do the same and slam it without touching the other coil. Like that. So, trying to keep an eye on the chat. Thanks for the 3 that are still here. So, yet again, I'm just going to wriggle it and manipulate it into there. And we're just slightly over. So I'm going to just temporarily secure that down just so I've got a bite. Make sure that the leg isn't coming through onto the other side, which it isn't. And then I'm going to tighten down the negative, like so. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same. I'm going to manipulate it. I'm going to push it to the center to center it off, pull it out a bit, and then pull up. So like I said there, with the pulling and stuff and the manipulation, the screw will come loose. So I'm just going to pop that back in there, making sure it's not touching that screw there. And it isn't. So I'm going to make sure that is down enough to secure that. I don't want to do it too tight and end up breaking my leads, just in case it has, the center one has gone through that post hole. So again, I'm going to pull it, I'm going to push it, pull it, and then lift the coil up. Just to make sure there's no wonk, because we don't like wonk. There we are. And that's it mounted there. So it's not touching the post. I know it looks like that. There we are, and I didn't even have to snip anything off. So I'm just going to move this back out so I can give you a closer look. So that's how I've mounted it. And nothing is touching, I don't think. So something might be a little there. I'm just going to pull that, take the wonk out of it. Have a look. That's a bit better. So that's that mounted and ready. Now what am I going to put it on? Aha. So I did say we're delving back about 10-11 years. So for the plume veil, what am I going to mount it on? Let's mount it on this. So this is Sigeli 150. When Sigeli were good, basically. So this is the OG 150, not the 100, the 150 that came out. Because the OG 100 had 2 screws in the center at the top at the bottom. So every time you wanted to change your batteries, you had to undo 2 screws just to change them. But I have got a wrap on there, that's why it's not one colour. So I have got a zap wrap, if anybody remembers zap wraps from back in the day. So I've got a black brushed titanium on the border and then grey on side of the doors. So you obviously got your fire button, your up and down, and then your screen just there. Battery door is magnetic. If I can get it. So there we are. Battery door is magnetic. That is the inside. I haven't fired it yet. I'm just showing you what I'm doing it on, or what I'm going to be firing on. And the magnets are very, very, very good on this, and that's the door. So that's what I'm going to do to fire it up. So let's get some batteries. I've got some batteries charged. So I haven't, like I said, I haven't fired it yet. So I'm going to put some batteries. I've got some P38, no, P28 Molicel and batteries with some OBD booby wraps on there. Who doesn't like boobies? So minus at the bottom. And then plus. And these were solid devices back in the day. I mean, like I say, it was when Sigeli did good, really, really good stuff. There we are. So with these, the screen didn't light up really. So got check atomizer there. Let's get it the right way. Check atomizer. And then obviously your watts and resistance. So you've got your watts, your voltage, and your resistance and battery life there. So with the Sigeli, you didn't get exact ohms. It did it like 0.1, 0.2, point this, point that. So I'm just going to put it down to about 20 watts to start off with. And these did it in 1.1 increments on there. So I've got it at 20 watts. So let's get it on and fire it up. Get these coils glowing. And hopefully will not melt the insulator. So I'm going to mount that just on top of there like so. So this is saying it's a 0.2, so it might be over a 0.2 ohms. But it never gave you the in-between. It said either a 0.1, a 0.2, a 0.3, a 0.4. It never said like 0.23 or point thingy. So that's its starting resistance. Let's get these glowing nice. So that's my cue to turn that on. So let's get that here. I'm going to just lock that here like that so you can see a bit better. So I'm just going to lightly pulse it. Let the mod do its job. Give it a little strum. So I haven't got any shorts going on, so nothing's touching. So I'm just going to heat them up slightly, work out all the hot spots. Depending on what type of vapor you are, you just probably strum them. I do normally strum, but every now and then I do find myself pinching as well. So another thing with these old RDAs as well, even heating up your coil can also loosen your post hole. So just go in for a quick check. That's nice and tight. That had a little bit of a turn on there. That one was loose. Hopefully not too loose. And that's nice and tight. I'm just hoping that doesn't break that lead. So, and let's carry on. Sorry about that. Alright, Jaff, how we doing, mate? So, Jaff, I'm building an old RDA from about 10-11 years ago, the Plume Veil, which is that. So I've only done a simple build, a fused Clapton using 28 gauge cores and 36 gauge, but I'm not. So I've got 2mm ID on here, so it's an old RDA, 7 wraps, and I've got it on an OG Sigeli 150. So I'm just working out the hot spots and stuff. I've just checked the post screws and they were a bit loose. Like I say, with these older RDAs, you do have to check the post screws. There we are. Just slowly work those hot spots. I am gonna increase the wattage to, oops, and it's really fast as well when you do it. So I'm gonna increase it to about 40 watts. Should be nice. There we are. Get a bit more power into them. There we are. It is, but it's a good job you want a vapor about 10 years ago, because this one that I've got now is a clone Jaff, but back in the day, the authentics, this RDA 22mm RDA would have cost you about 140, 150 pound. And back then they weren't readily available, they only made a certain amount of RDAs and then they didn't. So that's when cloning became very, very popular. So I'm not doing no mad build on this Jaff because I want to still have an insulator and the deck isn't hot, so looks like I'm good. So still need to work some of those hot spots out. Well, not hot spots, I can't see no hot spots, but just glowing evenly. So like I say, old RDA, even when you are firing them, still check the post holes. So this is not my OG, it's fairly new, so the center post hasn't spinned on me yet, but it will eventually, more use. So there is a slight hot spot just here, so I'm just going to give it a little tug. Hopefully I'm still in camera. A little tug. And carry on. They'll eventually come out. Just be patient and work them out. So I can just see a hot spot just there. So I'm just going to give it a little inside tickle there. And I'm going to just pull. Get a bit more heat into them. So I have got a bit of a hot spot there. Where's my coiling rod? So just gonna poke it a bit with the coiling rod. See if that helps. And it more or less has. So just sort of like gives it a little bit of a scrape on the inside when needed. There we are. And that's one of the reasons why I am using it on a regulated mod and not a mechanical mod. And we more or less look sweet there. There we are. So I'm just going to quickly let that cool down. I'm going to take it off to get more or less a final resistance. I'm not going to get the exact resistance, but I might just... So on this, it is showing a 0.3, so it could be a 0.32, 0.33. Doesn't matter, but that's your final. So let's wick it up. I'm still using this shit cotton. I will be getting some Maviton very, very soon. Once I get a bit of money, and I'll get some off Jaff Vapes as well. If you're watching, people that have been coming in and out, hashtag replay crew, go give Jaff Vapes a follow and Punk Rock Vapor. You know, they've got some YouTube channels and they're really, really good channels. So go give them a follow. Jaff Vapes and Punk Rock Vapor. So I'm just going to pull some cotton through, and I think that is just more or less perfect. Just the right amount of resistance in it. And I probably will get 2 coils. Get some small scissors here and chop that off. And I should get 2 coils out of this. So with this being an old RDA, some people won't like it. This was a popular RDA back in the day. And with round wire, don't get me wrong, it's not the best vape you'll ever have. But I think an old RDA with a more modern coil on actually works pretty well. So I'm just going to slightly thin this out. It's a very, 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 well, not a very, very, but it is a short juice well. So this one I just want to fill out a little bit more. That one I just want to chuff up a bit. And then I'm just going to cut about there, which should work. And then I'm going to making sure I'm still in camera, so I'm just going to tuck that in under there. So tuck that in, and tuck that in this side as well. So you'll have one side which is pretty easy, and then another opposite side, which is this side, the way I put my coils in. You have got that leg just dangling there. So same again, I'm just going to chop with my small scissors, making sure I'm still in camera. So I'm just going to swoop that in under that leg. There we are, like so. Leaving space underneath your coil for air to go through. Now I still use this RDA. Like I say, this is the normal build I would normally put on it. Just a nice little fuse Clapton, bigger wire, higher wire, not low gauge wire or thicker gauge wire. Because it's all, like I said, it's all right for about half a dozen uses, but you will end up melting that insulator. So that's that done. What juice am I using? So I use a lot of juice from Dark Star. So before I do anything, I just want to get that up. I'm going to use one from their labs that hasn't returned. So Dark Star did a labs every month, last Thursday of every month. This was one of their labs a couple of months back. And I don't vape ice flavors, but this is a lovely ice flavor. It's just a slight hint of ice, which I like. So that's what I'm going to be using, ice melonade. And with the weather being sort of nice, it's quite nice also to have a refreshing vape. So that's what we're going to do. Get rid of all the ends. So I'm going to keep it at 40 watts, and I'm just going to paint this juice on there, give it a little pulse, and again another little pulse. And it can probably handle a bit more wattage. So I am going to bump that wattage up to, I'm going to say 60 watts. $55 watts. So 55 watts I'm going to put it at. So that's that. If you're still in, Jeff, did you get plenty of stuff at the Vape Expo? I did catch your live that you did while you were there. So I'm just going to tidy up this, make sure there's room underneath the coil. so. And we've got vapor. Have another drink. Cheers, everybody. Right. Just having a quick check on the chat. So we've got vapor there. So let's get the top cap prepared for dual coil. So I want the airflow parallel, the parallel one, just there. And pop that in. So I'm going to run that wide open. I'm going to run it wide open. Let's get it with that logo there. There. I'm going to be keeping the top airflow completely closed because I think it kills the flavour rather than enhancing it. So I'm going to pop my top cap on. There's no tabs or anything on the deck, so you have to line up your airflow yourself. So I'm just going to pop that on there. I'm going to pull the top bit off there just so I can align my airflow. So like I say, there's no tabs on this whatsoever. So like I say, old school. So you have to do your airflow in front of your coils like that. Now I've more or less got this side airflow shut off on the side, so that isn't open. And the reason why I don't open it is because I don't. I think the whole point of the side airflow was not only to get air to the back of your coils, but also to keep your posts nice and cool, probably because of that shitty insulator. Got a drip tip for it, and I'm gonna pop that drip tip on there. Like so. That doesn't look as if it's on straight. And that's that. That's the plume veil. So I'm just going to have a quick toot on it. Make sure everything's good, and it is. So like I say, I am not doing a live stream next week because I got a busy week, a wedding and so forth. So there won't be a live stream next week, and I did make enough wire to do 2 RDAs. So let me grab something else that is about the same era, 10, 11 years ago, but that is the plume veil. So what shall we do next? Let's do this one because this is about same era time, and I absolutely love this RDA. So let me get my camera a bit better. So I am. So look at that. The magma. Am I locked? Oh, this is locked. So the Magma, the OG Magma. So this is a clone also. I don't have my OG, but this is an absolute flavor banger. 22 millimeters. It's even got a protruding 510, but same thing. Have you seen that insulator? That is not PEEK. That is plastic. So this is why I don't want to be stressing that insulator. So, see, it's been ages since I've used this. And I don't even know what I'm doing. So, top is threaded like that. That is your deck there. It's just a 2-post design. Very, very deep juice well. I believe that was about 10 mils of juice well there. And as you can see, there's that same sort of insulator plastic or a harder plastic insulator for the center. Your 2 air holes there that come through the side here. Up those tubes and to your coils. And then your airflow ring, same again. You can do it in dual coil configuration. So you had 3 settings, which I believe was 1 millimeter hole, then it went to 2 millimeters and then 3 millimeters. And that could be done the same on both sides if you're running it in dual coil. But then you could also run this in single coil. So you'd use that side there for single coil. And then you'd basically just set your airflow how you wanted it. A bit similar to like the Twisted Messes is, where you set your airflow like that. And then your top barrel there, it threaded on like that on the top. But yeah, Magma from Paradigm. So anybody that's watching, do you remember this RDA? Or if you're watching replay, did you ever have a Magma? Comment below, let me know. So let's build this one as well to make up for next week. So get me a screwdriver, loosen those. So these are very, very small post holes as well. I'd say about the same as the plume veil, which I think are about I'd say 1 mil in diameter, those post holes. Just there. Nice beefy screws as well, flathead screws, which I think is one of the reasons why these did so well as well, because of the nice beefy screws. So my other piece of wire, so same, other piece of wire is the same, just a simple fuse Clapton 28 gauge cores, 36 wrapped on the outside. So I'm gonna do exactly the same as I did with the other one, but I'm just gonna do a 5 wrapper, and because I think that'll do really, really nice. because obviously I'm going to be running it on a regulated device, so I'm not going to be running it high. But it's just meant for juicy flavour. So, like I said, so that's what I'm working with. Flat wire. So let's wrap this. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Matter of fact, let's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, let's start off with 5. So got 5 there. Same on the opposite side. Flat against the rod. First wrap. Always the trickiest wrap, the first wrap. So 2, 3, 4, and 5. So yeah, I'm going to do a 6 wrap with this one. So in the plume veil we've got a 7 wrap. In this one I'm going to do 7 wrap. A 6 wrap, sorry, not a 7 wrap. So there we are again. Same coil, only 6 wrap. And same with that side, just there. Then grab my cutters and take my cutters like that, snip it in the center. Two coils there. So this one on this side has got some spacing issues. It's not going to affect it. In fact, it'll probably vape really nice. So just going to remove my rod from here. And let's get them installed. So because you're sharing the posts, you've got to be very, very careful. So I'm just going to pop that in roughly where I want it, which is about sorry about that, my camera just went a bit weird there, I don't know why, and it's doing it again. But yeah, that's how I want it, just there. What's going on here? So I apologise if the camera's freezing a bit, I don't know what's going on. Come on, camera, what are you doing? Don't mess up on me now. So that's where I want it, roughly. Come on, why are you messing up on me? So because I'm sharing both the the same post holes. I'm just going to bend this off to the side, bend that off to the side, keeping that like that. And then with my other coil, with the other side, I am going to try and slide it through. How's my camera doing? Still freezing? Alright, not a problem. It might be just my my connection to my TV because I'm looking at it on the TV. But thanks for letting me know, Oasis. So I'm going to see if I can actually even fit this coil in here, the second coil. I might not fit it in, which I'm not. So I'm not going to fit both coils in there, but this will shine in coil. So I've just lost connection to my TV. I'm just going to quickly adjust so I can see what I'm doing. So I'm sorry this is happening. See if that where I need to be. There we are. So sorry about that, guys. I just had to reconnect my phone to my TV, so I apologise for the turbulence just then. So like I said, it will not fit two coils in, but it will shine with just one coil. And I've got a thicker screwdriver I can use here. There we are. So that's a bit better. Where are we? Let me get back in view a bit better. So that's what we've ended up with. So like I say, this will shine with just one coil in there and only one will fit in because of the post holes. And plus you're sharing the post holes, so it is going to be fiddly. If you're using just normal round wire or even probably a thinner fuse Clapton, if you want to go thinner, say, I don't know, 32 gauge cores, you might get two coils in there. So I'm just going to adjust. Make sure there's no wonk on there. So I want to pull out as best as I can, and then I just want to move a bit the coil a bit more over, because on this RDA as well, which it was the same on the OG as well, but if you have a look at there, as you can see, the post holes, not the post holes, the posts are not dead on center. I don't know if it's coming up on the camera, but as you can see, the posts are more to this side of the deck than it is that side. If you look on it, looking at it dead on. like that. So now that I've got that positioned, I'm just going to nip up the post holes again. The post screws, not the post holes, I apologise. Because like I say, with all that tugging and stuff, they will come loose again. And that's stayed nice. So I want it about there. Maybe a tad bit lower might help. Just with that flavour, it'll help. So I have moved it down a touch. So what I want to do is I want to snip these legs off. So watch your eyes. And again, watch your eyes. So that's nice and flush. There's nothing in the deck that's dropped in or anything. So that's like that. So I'm just going to use the same mod that I was using. Let's just get rid of some of this here. So I'm going to use the Sigelli to fire it on. So first things first, I'm just going to quickly just zero out the mod. I'm going to just bring it down to 30 watts. Give it a quick fire. So this is at the moment showing a 0.3 before fire. So let's get this fired up and sorted. So So what's happened there is one of my legs have messed up. So what I am trying to do is I am trying to get back what has happened, which I don't think I am going to be able to. No. So that's messed up on me. So as you can see there, when I fired it, it distorted that. I fired it too high. So that's my fault. So it's a good job I did 2 coils. Let's just quickly get this off here and mount the other one up. So this is a good thing as well, a little lesson into always always fire on a regulated mod. Don't fire on a mech mod or anything, because if that had have melted, it would have probably been too late. So I'm just going to mount this in here. So I know I can't get two, so I won't bend those legs off. Try and get into camera view. Turn this leg. Just going to move that in just slightly and lock that one down, and make sure that one's locked down. So same again, I'm just going to adjust, going to push it over a bit just so it's above that air hole, just there, like so. Check the posts again. As you can see, they're just slightly loose, and again watch your eye, watch your eye, make sure nothing's in there that shouldn't be, which it isn't. So that's the second one mounted. So I have turned it down to 15 watts this time, and hopefully I won't screw up this one. So I'm just going to introduce the heat into it. Very slowly. Giving it a little scrape. Working out those hot spots. And just to get it glowing. Just to get it glowing nice. Where are we? And that is glowing more or less evenly. There we are. Didn't take long for that to go nicely. So I'm just going to screw it off, zero out my mod, and just give it a quick fire again. So final resistance, it's showing a 0.5. So like I say, with these old Sigelis, they never gave you the digit after. So it could be a 0.55, it could be a 0.57, but it's no lower than a 0.5 and it's no higher than a 0.6. So that is quite nice. Let's fire that up. Let's work a bit more of this out. Yeah, that's better. Perfect. So I hope you guys are still drinking something. I'm still on this Bertha. I'm drinking it slowly because it's like 8 point some percent. But yeah. Have a vape. So cotton, I'm using the same cotton. So get myself a nice piece of cotton. It's nice and fluffy. It's not the best cotton this, but still nice and fluffy. I'm going to swirl the end there. Don't forget this has got a big deep juice well, so you will need quite a bit of cotton to obviously go down into that juice well. So with this one, I am not going to thin it out. I will fluff, which is totally different to thinning out. So I'm just going to give it a little tuff there, and then I'm just going to very carefully, won't use these ones, let's use these ones. So this side is the more thinner end, so where most of the post holes are leaned onto this side. But yeah, so that's gone in there nicely and is hitting the bottom. So I'm going to do the same with that side. I'm just going to measure it, cut off just there. Sorry, just out of focus there. So I've cut the other end off. I'm not thinning it out, I'm just loosening those fibres. And then this one's got this is the more open side of the deck. And just make sure that it is touching the bottom. I want it away from that underneath airflow. I don't want it restricting that airflow in any way whatsoever. Sorry that I'm out of camera. Like that. And like that. And into the juice well. So that's how I've got it. Nice and fluffy duffy. So in this one, because it is flavour, let's use some of this Dark Star scones. This is absolutely amazing. This has been steeping for quite a long time, over 12 months. And this is just awesome. And I think it'll go really nice with this RDA. Because this is just plain old flavour banger. So I'm just going to introduce some juice to it, give it a pulse. Just going to turn that up a bit, 18 watts. And don't forget you got loads of juice well there as well. So I'm just going to fill those juice wells up. So I basically filled up that juice well. That is full, it holds plenty of juice. It just saves on dripping because you do have to remove that top bit. So I want this in, if I'm not dropping stuff again, I want this in single coil configuration again. So pop your ring on just like that. So I want to make sure that nothing on the opposite side, and make sure that your ring is the right way. That isn't the right way. There we are. So it's more in line with your airflow there. So I'm just going to pop the top on this. Making sure I don't move that airflow out of place. And that's locked in there. So I've got the biggest airflow open, the 3mm airflow. There we are. So I am going to just bring this, I think this will be good at about 25 watts. And we've got vapor. I don't know if you can hear it, but there's a slight bit of crackle there. So what I'm going to do is I am going to take this off here, and I'm just going to pop that on there because I'll vape that in a minute, but that's all ready. That can be wicking and soaking and stuff. I'm going to pop my plume veil back on here. So there was a bit of movement, so I want to make sure that my airflow is where I want it to be, and just making sure there. So doing that, I have just messed up my cotton a bit. The same on that. It's got caught in the ring. So I want to make sure that my airflow is in front of that coil, but I don't want the side open. So airflow is in front of that coil, not open on the side. Let me get rid of that. Don't need that now. And make sure both sides of my airflow is open. There we are. So that, I'm going to get that back up to 55 watts. So I'm just going to do a bit of cleaning up, and then I'll change the position of the camera. I'm going to go grab my other beer and have a quick toilet break. So I'm going to just put up a break screen just while I do so. So let me get everything sorted and back to where I need it to be. Put stuff away. That's 36, 28. So I'll just bring you back up here. So thanks everybody so far. That's stuck, dip tip in and out. I appreciate it. So that's that. So I'm just doing some housekeeping and getting stuff put away so it doesn't look shabby when I go back up to FaceTime. So I'm just putting all my tools away. Coil master kit. Don't want to lose that. And just put them away, that away, that up there. Perfect. So cheers guys. Thanks for the ones that have stayed. Ones that have been dipping in and out. That one is absolutely delicious. If you ever get a chance to get hold of it, obviously I'm in the UK. Bertha, absolutely amazing, but is very strong. 8.4% of alcohol. Right guys, so I'm just going to go for a quick break, toilet break, grab me other beer. I'll get up to FaceTime and we'll go from there guys. Okay, so I'll see you shortly, okay? Still here guys. And we are back. There we are guys. So there we are, just make sure everything's tickety-boo. Mic is on, camera's on, so I don't have another whoopsie like I did before. So, got me another drink to test out these two RDAs. So, This is another one. It's just my go-to stout from Lidl, and it's a bottle in it. So got to use the bottle opener, haven't we? Fuck yes! Oh hell yes! So let's go for a quick pour. So this is just a coffee stout. It is really nice. That's why I like it. Like I said before, I'm too picky with what I drink. I don't drink many IPAs or pale ales or beer. Really, the closest you'll get me to a beer is a sour. I love a sour. But cheers, welcome back. And shout out to the replay crew. So, built a coil, simple coil, fuse Clapton, Coils 28, wrapped in 36. I've built both the Plume Veil RDA, which was originally made by Aethertech, and then because I'm not live streaming next week, I've done a double build, and we have got the Magma by Paradigm. I've got a single coil in that, same fuse Clapton, 6 wraps, and that's ohming out at 0.4, I think it was. So let's start with the Plume Veil. So the Plume Veil, that is 0.3. Is a 0.3 at 55 watts. So side airflow is open, them there, that goes underneath the coils. The top airflow with that Delrin piece is completely shut off. I don't use that. I think it kills the flavour. And the ones on the side, I've just closed off. I'm not doing a build high enough for it to cool down the posts and what have you, but there we are. So let's have a toot on this. So in this one, I have got the Ice Melonade in this. It's got a slight icing. I don't vape ice, but the ice is so minimum. It's more of a refreshing taste rather than a smack in the face ice flavour. Excuse me. So 55 watts, dual coil, 2.5mm ID, 7 wraps on this one, dual coil, ohming out at 0.3. Now, it does say 0.3 on this Sigeli 150, but that could be anything from 0.3 to 0.39. It don't give you exact measurements and stuff. But, boom, let's have a toot on it. That really isn't bad. I did say it wasn't the best. It wasn't the best flavour from the Plume Veil, but with that thingy, it's quite nice. Hmm. 510 drip tip, so it's not an 810 drip tip. Nice. Really nice, funny enough. I'm not going to pair it with this because I don't think coffee and melon will work well together. Unfortunately, well, I suppose you can really. you can. So I can drip down the centre if I wanted to. I mean, back in the day, people didn't think to do that. They pop and paint, which basically meant is you took your top cap off and painted. But I'm not. I'm just going to put a few drops in there. There we are. And I have increased the wattage as well to 60 watts. So let's have a toot. Not bad. Really, really, really not bad. I do think it do with a bit more wattage. So I'm going to increase it by 10 watts. So I'm on. So I've got it on 70 watts. That is a lot better at 70 watts. You know what? That is a lot better than I remembered. Like I say, if you've got round wire, it's not going to be the best. But with a modern coil, think of it as a classic car with a modern engine and modern amenities in it, like air conditioning and power steering, which they probably didn't have. But yeah. I mean, this is what people used to really use it for back in the day, was flavour. And I had to pair it with the Sigelli 150. The OG Sigelli 150. So this was sort of innovation back in the day because it had airflow coming out of every orifice, top, bottom, sides. But I think for me, even back then, I didn't bother with the top or side airflow. I thought just the direct airflow from underneath the coils that gives you that slight restricted direct lung works good for the flavour. So drip some more in there. So this is some proper old school dripping here. I'm really enjoying this, guys. And you know what? I know I keep banging on about the flavour. The flavour really isn't that bad. I mean, I did watch Grim Green, and he calls it the POS RDA, piece of shit RDA. But I'm sorry, with a modern coil on, it still does shine. Dry throat. And a bit of the ice as well. But that's probably because I'm vaping at such a high wattage. And as you can see, decent amount of cloud coming from it. Wow. Cannot complain one bit. So I'm just going to vape the rest of the juice out of this, because if I'm not vaping it constantly or like after this live stream, I'll probably use it a bit but not as much. I always like to keep my wicks dry and everything so the juice doesn't go bad and mess up your coils basically. And as you can see, it's getting really cloudy. Welcome back, whoever came back. Vaping the Plume Veil. And is really, really nice. Still holds up. I'm shocked by the flavour as well. It's really good flavour. Is it great flavour? No, but I'd give it a good 6 out of 10 for flavour. Like I said, this is what people used it for mostly back in the day, was flavour chasing. There wasn't much sub-ohming going on. Well, there was, but people were more on flavour. If you sub-ohmed and everything, you were probably like cloud chasing or doing competitions and stuff. But me, I used to cloud chase all the time. Still good. Still good. Still plenty of juice in there. Has got a bit of a crackle, not too much of a crackle. I don't know if it'll come up on my mic. I don't know if you heard that or it's sound cancelled, but there is a little bit of a crackle there. Wow. This is why I still have these old RDAs, because they still kick ass. Now it's starting to get a little bit dry, but I don't want it too dry that I'm burning the cotton. I'd say that's about done. So that is the Plume Veil. Still very tasty. Still very tasty. So the Plume Veil by Aethertech. Delicious. Still delicious, should I say. Now the Magma, I know it's going to be delicious. Out of the two, the Plume Veil and the Magma, I've got to admit, out of the two, I do prefer the Magma. So, just going to pop that on there. Now, let's do the Magma. Now, I'm just going to cancel it out. I don't want to be firing this at 70 watts because I'm probably just going to burn the coils out. So, I'm going to bring it down to 30 watts, which I think will be just nice. Like I say, 0.1 increments, guys. So 30 watts. And that's reading a 0.5. So let's have a 2. Excuse me. So yeah, I'm going to leave that at 30 watts. Yeah, kicks ass. Now this is a scones, which I think will go really nicely with this coffee stout. Probably scones and tea would probably taste better, but I've got coffee stout. So not bad. Not bad. It's made the coffee quite bitter. yeah, I don't think that's a good pairing with that one. So as you can see, the vapor's not bad on that. I am going to actually pump it up to 35 watts. Got to be careful with this because it just suddenly takes off where with the wattage scrolling, and like I say, 0.1 increment, so 35 watts. That's kicked up the flavour a lot more. So there's not much vapour production on it. Boy, that got my throat then. But yeah, cannot go wrong with the flavour on that. It's got one hell of a kick to it, let's put it that way. So it's a nice sort of like more restrictive than that, than the Plume Veil. So it's 22 millimeters in diameter, very deep juice well. Can't complain one bit with that. Just going to check the juice. As you can see, still nicely saturated. And there we are. Pop that back on there. Make sure my airflow is open and lock it down. Like I say, a bit like Twisted Messes is how the airflow works. And slamming that coil straight down to just above that airflow obviously gives it that good bit of air to get that vapour to your mouth. Now the airflow's not quite bad. There's not much of a whistle on it. I wouldn't say it's smooth, it's very turbulent, but I don't know if it'll come through on my mic, but I mean there is a bit of a, not much of a whistle, but it is loud. Now we're cooking. Hell yeah. So guys, I'm going to just vape this until it goes and then I'll end it there. That got me throat again. So guys, I'm nearly to the end of this, so if this is the kind of content that you do like, learning how to make coils, different types of coils, watching some retro stuff from years ago, please consider subscribing. Hit that like button, share, comment as well. It doesn't cost anything for you to like and subscribe, and it'll help with those algorithms, and I will appreciate it very, very much. Do a live stream every Wednesday. Excuse me. Live stream every Wednesday, 8 p.m. GMT time, +1 summertime UK. So if you subscribe, don't forget to hit that bell icon and set it to all so you're alerted whenever I upload anything. So whether it being shorts or lives. I am considering maybe starting to do live reviews. If that is something you might be interested in, please comment below if you want to start seeing some live reviews. I find it a lot better. I enjoy doing lives because obviously I can interact with my audience. But like I say, if you are interested in maybe like live reviews, so I can interact with my audience while I am reviewing something and looking close up on stuff, then obviously comment below, hit that like button, subscribe, and share to people that might be interested in. If you're not interested in the retro side, there's obviously the coil building side. Today wasn't really much of a major coil build. It was just a simple coil build because of these old RDAs and the insulators. So as you saw in the close-up, it's tough on plastic. It's not peak like it is now. So right low builds, ends up melting that insulator. That's why these particular ones, the Magma and the Plume Veil, I will never really vape them on a mech. I'll vape them on a regulated device, because if that insulator melts and there's metal touching, not going to load till it's too late. At least with a regulated mod, you will be cut off in time before anything bad happens. So yeah, I still rate this. I think flavour for this, I'd easily give it an 8. Old but gold. This one, 7. It really isn't bad flavour out of these at all, especially with the modern coil. Like I've said before, it's like having a classic car and putting a better engine in it, giving it aircon and power steering, which it didn't have originally. So round wire, you're not going to get the same thingy, but with a modern coil that you can fit into these things, they still absolutely shine. So I'm nearly to the end of this. So let me just prepare this for me to shut off. So thanks everybody, guys. Like, subscribe, comment, share, and if it's something you're interested in, I'm here every Wednesday, 8 p.m. GMT time, UK time, every Wednesday, apart from next week, because I've got a busy week and a wedding. So my next live stream will be on the 28th of this month. That's why I've done a bit extra and built 2 RDAs. So I appreciate you for joining, appreciate you for commenting and joining and interacting with everybody. I really do appreciate it. It helps. I'm touched by the people that join the live and also on the replay. So shout out to the replay crew and thank you again for watching, and I will see you guys on the next one. Love and respect, guys. Peace.